Welcome to the Data Freedom Case Study Podcast, where practitioners using TrueNAS enterprise appliances in production talk about how it's changed the way that they do business. Today I have Greg Bilby of Trussworks LLC with us, and if you'd like, we can jump right into your background and why you decided to trust TrueNAS to manage your data.
I first started with X Trust Design, which is where that X10S is. I am kind of an evolved position from originally being a trust technician doing the design for the actual manufacturing. I moved into an office coordinator and then an IT position only a couple of years ago. So these companies being construction industry, IT is really kind of an afterthought. But we have taken huge strides in trying to bring our network from the basic peer-to-peer single server, basically one system acting as a server, or possibly if we were lucky, we had real server computers rather than just a workstation. And we've moved from that simple peer-to-peer, what I always refer to as popsicle sticks and bubblegum, to nearly an enterprise class network. We have all 5, soon to be 7 sites internetworked with firewall connection. We have, of course, the X20HA is supporting a data center virtualization. That powerhouse of a machine is actually hosting our essential engineering application. And that's split between all of our locations. And its performance is just, I can't understate how shocked all of us were just to see it run faster than some of our workstations. My job went from working doing the tasks up to IT, and then fully bringing the IT from, low level simplistic up to full virtualization on a storage array. The support goes through our whole network, 3 manufacturing facilities, 1 location acting as a remote backup, and then the design location. One of our main manufacturing facilities in Caldwell has the X20HA, and then the design facility here in Tecumseh, Michigan has the X10S. The number of users concurrent on a given day right now doesn't seem to exceed 20 or so. But again, we have 20 users with performance that far exceeds an individual workstation for the most part, and that unified structure keeping our data available in the way that we need. To go into those specifics, it is a non-optimized old 32-bit application. It is not memory optimized. It is not processor optimized. So we have a system that essentially is doing rapid fire reads and writes on the disks in what modern computing you'd look at and say this is absurd. But we still need to support the application. This is really our only option. So I sized and built the data center, including the storage array, to basically handle this up to 200 users. With the IOPS on that all-flash X20HA, it should handle the 200 users as spec'd. It should be able to grow with us for the next 10 years. Prior to this data center, we had individual workstations doing the compute load. Once we put in the storage array and the compute systems, which are also IX systems provided, those we centralized that load. So the only central portion before would have been a SQL database server, which of course now still exists on this storage. The performance was acceptable because we could have an individual workstation with a really high-end processor handling this. I say high-end, it's literally just core clock speed. Since it wasn't optimized, this is a single thread, single core application. So we really needed to throw core clock speed at it. The biggest issue that we had across, not just my IT field, but was for the entire company as a whole, that database couldn't share its information or its files where we needed in our other locations, our other physical locations. You couldn't just split the files out. You couldn't just replicate a database. It was to the point where if something wasn't live in real time in one location, you risk building the wrong thing. And the scale at which we operate within a day, that could become too much of a cost impact. So the ultimate goal was a single source, single database. But again, the performance had to be there in order to make it usable. We explored a couple different cloud solutions before building our own, and the big killer to those was performance. So we weren't going to build something that couldn't exceed our expectations. We shot for the moon first. Within the application, we've had users that were familiar with the older systems, so they've used the individual workstation. They then used the cloud solution, and then now they're working on our data center. We have unofficially tested between a live system of the old style and then this new style data center just to see, hey, how long does the application take to pull up a layout? One of the more inefficient processes of the software. And it is surprisingly fast. And that's what I've continued to tell my boss is all I've ever heard is, wow, I did not expect it to go at this speed. We were already working with IX systems, and when I was talking about our plans, the question came up. He said, "You know we sell servers too, right?" And I said, "Get me a quote. Tell me what you can give me, and don't half bake it. Make sure you get me something right out the gate." Because I've had back and forth with some vendors that I said I need high core clock speed, and I hope that that conveyed well. And when it came back to me, it did. We started looking into the AMD EPYC line, and basically the price was right, the specs were what I asked for, not some game of, no, I said core clock speed. Well, I don't want 2.8, I don't want 3.5. We're at 4.0. I've built my own storage systems with Linux or Windows servers directly, not with this style of open storage. My former coworker had used FreeNAS and TrueNAS. I have heard of FreeNAS back in the day, never used it personally, but knowing what I know about the company, about the software, and then going off of my former colleague's recommendation, I said, yeah, I don't see any problem using it. So, and ever since then, like what I started out with, I've been pleasantly surprised. My story of as best as can be expected for a real world deployment is we had a lot of things go wrong. And that is the real world. So when the things went wrong, we reach out to support. We have, the gold support on the X20HA. Basically, we had a controller completely die due to a power event and it never came back online. That process took some time to fix. It took some pain and pushing back my deployment to fix, but I couldn't have asked for anything better. Real world's going to happen. And support said, try this, do this, look at this, let's try and work together. And the end result was, we'll ship you a new controller. We were able to quickly troubleshoot. I didn't have to explain every single time, yes, I do in fact know what I'm talking about. It was just a professional back and forth. And then we said, let's replace the controller. Support's been great. Like I said, they got exactly what I would expect. They didn't ask me extraneous questions. They didn't treat me like I wasn't working with these systems for months. They treated me like another tech. We were able to agree on diagnosis. I felt like my input was heard, unlike talking with another vendor who says, well, are you sure you've done this? Have you tried rebooting it? It's like, come on, we're professionals. We would have tried that already. When I'm able to convey, hey, I have done troubleshooting, I have done these steps even without you on the phone, they respected that. And again, I was able to give some of my feedback. We were able to then work together to find a solution. Of course, like I said, the former colleague who had made this recommendation, he did show me a lot of it first, including a lot of what became our deployment. He was doing a lot of show and tell, and I do believe his was just a random refurb Dell server that he threw TrueNAS on. Yes, it did affect my opinion. I walked into this being very old school. I would not have considered an all-flash solution. Had I been fully allowed to follow my own heart and my own desires, I would not have ended up with something I would have been this happy with. It's stable. Don't fear using it. The capabilities, the redundancy, and then the performance that came out of it's unparalleled. The other lesson here that I guess would be a takeaway for people who are on the fence is don't shy away from the support, because a lot of people say, I'm never going to use that. Why would I pay for it? It pays for itself the very first time you use it. And especially in my environment, which was, I can't have this go down. We were down to a production system with this critical storage device down to one controller. If I didn't have the support, it would have been a painful journey to resolution rather than the relatively painless one we had. I'm not really looking elsewhere for the future.
Thank you, Greg, for the time invested in sharing your experience with TrueNAS. If you can benefit from more data freedom in your business, Click the Get a Quote button or use the chat widget in the bottom right to share how we can help you. We look forward to giving you a free, no-pressure consultation to help you determine what your best options are.